Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Rapid City's Legal and Finance Committee meeting for Wednesday, June 29th, 2016. We'd like to begin with a roll call and determination of quorum, please. Thank you. Now's the time to adopt today's agenda. I'd like to hear from any committee members if there's anything that needs to be modified, added, or removed. If not, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
I've got a motion by Nordstrom to approve today's or to adopt today's agenda as presented. Do I have a second? I've got a second by Laurenti. Any further discussion from anyone except Mr. Lewis, who wants to adjourn the meeting already? Any further discussion? Seeing none? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The agenda has been adopted for today. Now is the time for general public comment. This is a time for any member of the audience to address the seated committee today on any item that is currently not on today's agenda. I do not have any speaker request forms for general public comment. Am I missing anyone? Seeing none, we're moving on to public comment for consent items. Consent items on today's agenda are items 1 through 12. I currently have no speaker request forms for any of the consent items 1 through 12. Am I missing anyone in the audience? Seeing none, public comment on consent items is now closed. Now's the time for the committee to consider items 1 through 12. Is there any items from a seated committee member that would like considered for separate discussion? Chair recognizes Alderman Laurenti.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to pull item 9, please.
Any other items? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve consent items 1 through 12, except item number 9.
So moved.
I've got a motion by Nordstrom to approve consent items 1 through 12, except item number 9. Do I have a second? Second. Second by Drew. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Consent items 1 through 12, except item number 9, have been approved and will go to the City Council meeting on Tuesday night, July 5th. Item number 9 is resolution number 2016-046 to create the position of Assistant Street Superintendent. Chair recognizes Alderman Laurenti.
Thank you, Chair. And I wanted to pull this item because I did not see in the attachments or in the, the summary of the agenda item, if this was budgeted and the effective date of this particular position. So Public Works doesn't look like they have someone here. I don't know if anyone else from staff can answer that question. If they want to just chime in there, that would be great. So I'm looking for an answer on that.
Mr. Barbier, would you like to start with it?
Sure. Alderman Laurenti, could you restate your question? Sorry.
A couple of things, I guess, depending on the answer, but the first one is if this was budgeted, depending on the effective date of this position.
It doesn't require any supplement to the budget, is my understanding. It's just a slight increase in one position. They can cover it from where they've had other openings this year. So I don't think it really has any effect on the budget for this year, for sure. It will be budgeted, obviously, for 2017.
I believe also, Mr. Barbier, if I remember correctly, this is not increasing total FTE numbers, full-time employee numbers.
Right.
The numbers stay the same.
Correct. It's not an increase in FTE. It's just a change in structure within the street division.
I just want to make sure that we don't have a supplemental coming back for the 2016 budget. So
okay.
For this particular position, if it's taking effective as soon as possible.
Yeah, basically what's practical, and we always create these positions at the beginning of a payroll period just for simplicity.
Okay, thank you. I yield.
Chair would like to recognize Alderman Nordstrom.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If I can ask Don Brumbaugh to come forward to give us a little bit of a history lesson on this position and what you're intending to do with this position.
Well, basically, the intent is...
You should introduce yourself, Don.
Don Brumbaugh, City Street Superintendent, sorry. Basically, what this does is it renames basically a position that's already existing. We have a street maintenance supervisor, and that position has grown drastically, especially within the last 10 years. The duties for that job It's a 24/7 on call. They've got direct supervision of snow removal, street maintenance, both asphalt and concrete. We've got day shifts and night shifts, and that position oversees that. And then looking at the duties and looking at the job classification for supervisor, in our opinion anyway, and after review, it shows that it's just more than just a supervisory type position, or in that lump sum group of supervisors, like supervising collection, for instance, on solid waste, where they've got 9 trucks doing routes, same routes every week, that sort of thing. This is something that's well above that, and we thought it deserved looking at. When we looked at it, the definition is better defined by assistant street superintendent than it is by supervisor. Like I said, it is an existing FTE. We don't anticipate any extra funds for 2016, and as far as 2017 either. We want to keep the position of street maintenance supervisor for in the future sometime, depending on how the city grows or the needs come across as far as street maintenance is concerned. But right now, we don't intend on filling the street maintenance supervisor position.
Thank you, Donnie. If I can ask one more question of you. Sure. Right now, you're using the street supervisor in basically that position, and they're getting paid overtime? I should have asked this question ahead of time. But
they're exempt employees. They do not get overtime.
Okay.
So the more you work, the less you make.
This position, though, is exempt, but the person that is filling in for right now, explain that one again.
The person that's there right now is the street maintenance supervisor. That position is exempt. This position that we're talking about is exempt. So basically there's no change other than I think it goes up a pay grade, so there'll be a 5% increase on his wages, and he'll have a new title.
Thank you.
Seeing no further speaker lights, I currently do not have a motion on the floor for item number 9. Got a motion by Lewis to approve, second by Drew. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. We're now, and thank you, Don.
You bet.
We're now on to non-consent items. Non-consent items on today's agenda are items 13 through 15. I currently do have one speaker request form, but Mr. Is it Schweiger? This item is on our agenda. Would you like to speak at that time that we're discussing that item? That'll be fine. All right, thank you. So I currently have no speaker request forms except one for item number 14, which will be heard at that time. Am I missing anyone? Seeing none, public comment on non-consent items 13 through 15 is now closed. Item number 13 is a Human Relations Commission semi-annual update. Ms. Sue Timmons, I see you in the audience. If you could come up to the podium, and if you would state your name and your affiliation to the city. Let us know, is this the only briefing you plan on offering, or do you plan on attending Tuesday night as well?
No, I will attend. Sue Timmons, and I'm the chair of the Human Relations Commission. And I wasn't sure whether you wanted to hear the whole thing tonight or whether you wanted to wait until Tuesday. And I'm willing to come back to give this update to the whole City Council if you wish.
Sue, if you're willing to come back on Tuesday, it might save you time in covering this information twice, as we will have the full council available on Tuesday night, including 2 new members who may have other additional questions for you.
Good. Well, I thought it would save you time too. I was prepared, but it's okay if you want to wait until Tuesday. That's good with me.
I'm seeing indication up here that we'd like to go ahead and hear from you on Tuesday if you're available.
I'll be available.
Thank you. I'll entertain a motion to send to council. Well, let's send to council without recommendation.
Yes, that's my motion.
I've got a motion by Nordstrom. Well, if we acknowledge it'll go on consent, Alderman Laurenti, which is why we want to send it to council without recommendation to give Sue the allotted time that she'll need for her semi-annual report. I've got a motion by Nordstrom to send to council without recommendation to Tuesday night. Do I have a second? Second. Got a second by Drew. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Sue.
We'll see you Tuesday.
See you Tuesday. We're now on to item number 14. Item number 14 is the Black Hills Area Habitat for Humanity. It's a request for removal or reduction of the special assessments on 140 Doolittle Street property. And if you would approach the podium, state your name and your affiliation to the city, and the committee is all ears.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman, Councilmen, Councilwomen. Thank you very much for hearing me today. My name is Todd Schweiger, a longtime attorney in Rapid City, longtime volunteer attorney with Black Hills Area Habitat for Humanity. The request today, you can see it's reflected in the June 21st letter from the acting executive director of Habitat, Heidi Christner, is for a reduction or elimination of a total of $17,180.97 in assessments on the property at 140 Doolittle Street. As you're probably all well aware, Habitat for Humanity and the City of Rapid City have a long-standing cooperative effort going to fill in distressed properties with a new home to produce, of course, taxes and a better living condition for the city overall. The city has been most generous in sharing its CDBG money, its block grant money, to help Habitat purchase these distressed properties, take care of whatever buildings are on them, and then build a new affordable home for low-income families who qualify and do sweat equity and then make their monthly payments on an interest-free mortgage. This property is kind of an unusual one, and this is an unusual request for Habitat, but it came with a good amount of assessments from the city as well as a good amount of property taxes from the county. We have appeared before the county and they have waived the property taxes, and now we're here before the city hoping that we can get the assessments waived or at least reduced to continue to make this property affordable for the individuals who are earmarked. As you can see from the letter, I believe it's a single mother with 6 children, to make it more affordable for that family. In fact, one of your consent items, item number 10, was the environmental assessment that you approved by consent for Habitat. And again, thank you for all your help. But as a nonprofit, you know, we keep coming and we keep asking.
If you would stand for questions.
Sure.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Alderman Nordstrom.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If I may, I'll make the motion to, remove and reduce the special assessment.
Well, removal and reducement are two separate things,
Okay.
because
Removal.
the city did incur some cost on this.
Yes. I'll go with the reduction then, if I may, on a part of my motion.
So you're going with the reduction or a
Let's
removal?
start there. If I may start there, yeah.
Okay, so I've got a reduction of the administration fees and retaining what the city's actually, I
Understand the question, and let me clarify. Let's just make it simple and remove the whole 9 yards, so remove it.
I've got a motion by Nordstrom to remove all special assessments and administration fees on 140 Doolittle Street, and a second by Laurenti. Alderman Nordstrom, you still have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and Mr. Schweiger, thank you for bringing this forward on this. And I'm not going to be grumbling at you. I think it's the system that we have an issue with, at least I do. And so what I'm going to say here is not directed at Habitat for Humanity or you, but it's just the system that I'm shall I say, exasperated with, is that some way, somehow, this assessment is going through, and we're not going to be paying, somebody's going to be paying for it. And the city is going to be losing out on this. We're a property manager for the properties around the city of Rapid City, and that's the bugaboo that I think we have. I don't like the way we're doing property management. And again, it's not directed at Habitat for Humanity. It's just the way the system is working right now is the way we are doing property management within the city, and we're not being able to recover that funding. And and I have a hard time saying no to Habitat for Humanity. So that's essentially just my little bit of grumbling on this whole enterprise, what we've got going on with what we have to experience. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Chair recognizes Alderman Laurenti.
Thank you, Chair. I just can't help myself. I'm sorry, but if we can allow multi-billion-dollar corporations to use $6.8 million of their own taxes to pay for construction of their own new corporate building, I think we can find a way to help Habitat for Humanity and all of the things that they do in our community as well. So I will support this. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Seeing no other lights, I would like to direct a question to our finance officer. Pauline, what if it was not a removal, if it was a reduction, what is the actual total on this property that the city has paid to outside contractors?
I was actually trying to find that email that I received from one of my staff members, and it's not popping up. It's a little over $8,000 right now that we have paid to contractors or whoever for those special assessments. There really needs to be some way to replenish the fund in which that money was expensed, so we have money available again for additional properties in which we have to do some kind of nuisance abatement. Without that funding, we sometimes can get limited on what we're able to do with that.
Thank you. And with that being said, I do appreciate also everything that Black Hills Area Habitat for Humanity does in our community, and I do understand that any amount of money reduced helps that low interest or no interest payment for that family moving in. But I'm wearing my city hat here, and I cannot support the full removal because the city needs to be able to get the money back. And I almost question whether there isn't other funds available. That you mentioned the CDBG fund. It just seems to me that we should be able to at least put the money back in that the city has actually incurred. I would be in favor of removing all the additional finance and special assessment administration fees, but not the actual cost that the city incurred. So I will be voting no. Oh. Chair recognizes the finance officer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I apologize. I found the email. The actual assessment where we've spent the money was $7,466.77. All the additional is interest and penalties on that.
Thank you. So the reduction would be less than half of that. But currently what's being addressed by the city council members is a full removal. Chair would like to recognize Alderman Lewis.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I won't be here to vote on this final. My vote doesn't really count anymore. But I will say that I do appreciate Habitat's commitment to the community. I do understand, of course, what the finance officer is trying to tell us, and she's running out of money, and we got to figure out a way to, if we're going to make these kind of abatements, we got to figure out some sort of source of making it come back. So I don't know how we're going to do that, but I'm all for affordable housing, and not very many organizations in this town that can actually step up and do it. So I'll be voting in support of it, but that doesn't mean my successor won't support it in the future. I have no idea. But anyway, I'm giving my last 2 cents. Thank you.
Chair would like to recognize Alderman Laurenti.
Thank you, Chair. I don't want to dirty up the agenda item, but I do want to make an amendment, make a motion to amend it to include a recommendation, if I can get a second, from staff on funding sources for the entire removal of these special assessments for Monday night. If we can have something from, say, the finance office for suggestions. So I agree with that. Let's replenish those funds, but if it can come from council budget or mayor's office, but some suggestions from the finance office would be great.
I believe the finance officer would like to offer you 1 or 2 suggestions now.
Thank you.
Thank you. A great place for this to come from, because I know the affordable housing is a huge initiative in Rapid City, and we don't really want a lot of people coming forward just for the sake of getting their assessments completely waived. Would be council contingency in the general fund for the principal amount only. We have in the past removed interest and penalties from assessments when properties have been purchased in similar situations.
Pauline, do you have the current balance of the council contingency at this time?
I do not believe we have used any of that money yet in 2016, and I believe the amount was $50,000.
So that's my motion, Chair, if I can.
Would you like to make a substitute motion?
My substitute motion is to fund the removal of the special assessment, make the funding source the council contingency fund. If I can get a second.
Okay, I have a substitute motion by Alderman Laurenti to waive the full amount of the property or the special assessment and administration fees on 140 Doolittle Street. The administration fees would be totally waived, and the $7,466.77 that is the principal amount would be paid by council contingency. I have a second by Nordstrom. Chair recognizes Alderwoman Drew.
Thank you, Chairwoman. I'm going to vote in favor of this, but I think going forward we can't count on council contingency. I think that the Habitat for Humanity projects are growing in number, and that's a good thing for us. And as we go into budgeting, I would like to maybe have this looked at by the full council as maybe part of a budget item or something that we can have some money on hand for these particular requests. Let's face it, we do fund a lot of things that aren't this worthy, I think, and I want to help this family get into new housing. And so I think that it could be something we could look at with our budgeting that is coming up very soon. Thank you.
Chair would like to recognize Alderman Laurenti.
Just one last thing, and this is just kind of not foreshadowing, but maybe giving a heads up to Habitat for Humanity as we come into budgets. Maybe they could give us some idea around that time what they're looking at for properties, and if we can look at those properties with the city to make sure we don't have these same issues with the properties that they might be planning to look at. So just kind of give them a little heads up. Thank you.
Thank you. And seeing no further lights, one other question I'd like to pose to you is also, there was a lot of discussion when this first came from staff to council leadership, and one of the questions that arose is that usually when properties close and transfer hands through a title company, any special assessments or that type of stuff wouldn't be hanging out there. What makes this property so unique that these special assessments are still hanging out there and weren't taken care of as part of the transfer?
I'm not aware of how Habitat came into the possession of this property, but it's quite possible that the individual who bought this at tax deed, through a tax deed, discovered the assessments or realized the assessments had grown so much that they just threw up their hands and looked for someone to take it over, so they quitclaimed it to us. I can't guarantee you that on this occasion, that's what happened, but it has happened in the past, and it's not uncommon.
Thank you, because that helps. I'm hoping it helps the committee members recognize that what the committee is recommending to satisfy this out of council contingency for the principal amount, this is a one-time deal, and we're really not trying to set a precedent to handle special assessments going forward.
Understood. And of course, Habitat's been in the community now for, 20 years, and I think this is the first time that we've done this, and hopefully the last time, and we do appreciate your special consideration for this occasion.
Thank you. Seeing no further lights, I do have a motion on the floor. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you very much.
Approval. Thank you. Item number 15 is the request for half of the 2017 annual vision funds to be made available for community projects. I would like to recognize Council President Brad Estes. The mayor, unfortunately, was unable to be here. He had another meeting at this time, but Council President Estes will update us because there is an ordinance change that would also have to be looked at. So I believe we're looking at two pieces. Alderman Estes, if you could let us know.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Brad Estes, 1132 Settlers Creek Place, member of the City Council. This was discussed Monday morning during agenda review. This is an item from the mayor. And I guess we're asking, there's two components to this. We're asking for a two-part deal to be approved today. Number one, for the mayor to start being able to assemble the citizen committee per the ordinance. And the second phase of that would be to authorize the mayor and staff work together to do a tweak to the ordinance. And the ordinance right now states that when the citizen committee meets, it's for a 5-year plan. And we'd like to have that adjusted or have an ordinance brought forward for discussion where it adjusts that time frame to be set by the council at the time, whether it be a 1 or 2 year deal. Right now, and obviously this is up for debate, but right now, when you set down, it's a 5-year plan, and with the uncertainty in pricing and construction costs, we've seen that the projects that are usually in year 3, 4, and 5 are probably 2 or 3 times, and usually a project from year 5 gets cannibalized to fund projects in year 2, 3. So anyway, that's all we're asking for at this time. And I believe the mayor is giving a State of the City address tomorrow, and I think he's going to visit a little bit about this then. Thank you.
Thank you. So in preparation for Tuesday night's council meeting, I'd like to entertain a motion from committee members to split this into 2 pieces. One is to authorize the mayor to create the Citizens Committee, and the second item is to authorize the mayor to direct staff to bring back modification to the Vision Fund ordinance that would open up and not would open up possibly language here, the city council to determine the length of the project period that the city committee is working on, instead of locking it into 5 years. So I'll hear from any committee members. Chair recognizes Alderman Nordstrom.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm interested in a little bit more detail on this before I make any kind of a motion, but do we not have in the ordinance, the current ordinance now, that allows the mayor to appoint a citizen committee for the vision funds?
Yes, but the issue is that what the mayor is proposing and what he's going to address tomorrow is that he would like to free up the 2017 Vision Fund and have the Citizens Committee review projects for that single year. Our ordinance is currently written up that once the mayor assigns a Citizens Committee, the Citizens Committee and the City Council will be working on a 5-year plan. And the mayor is, as Alderman Estes had already indicated and the mayor's indicated, working with a 5-year plan at any given time with the volatility of the cost of construction and that type of stuff at this time, we've run into some problems, and so it's recommended that maybe the ordinance should be tweaked so that it's not a hard 5-year plan that the council is working on, that it leaves it up to the discretion of the council and the mayor when the mayor forms the Citizens Committee to determine what the length of the plan we're working on at that time.
And if I may,
please.
It takes time to put a Citizens Committee together, and we just thought that, well, we want any ordinance change to take the proper time and the proper channels and such, that while concurrently, while that's going through the process, and and it's whether it has to be approved by the council to take effect, but the mayor can be using that time to start assembling his committee.
Thank you. I like the direction of where we're going on this. I wanted to have a little more time to kind of study this, but I like the direction where we're headed. So I'll yield to my colleagues here to see what additional comments they have. Thank you.
I'll just add is the only thing you're committing to right now is to allow the mayor to work with staff and him to start putting together a committee that has to be, I believe, approved by the council.
Understand. Okay. I've just spoken, so I can't make a motion, right. But understand.
The city attorney may have some opinions, but the chair would like to recognize Alderman Lewis.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'd like to make a motion to send this to council without recommendation. I'd get a second. Thank you. My interest in doing that is obviously there'll be 2 new members on the council that be weighing in on this, and they need to get up to speed. And just we can debate this all day long about whether or not we should do this. But I think, in fairness to those individuals, it definitely was something that should be there. They can go over before, hopefully, Tuesday night. And if they need any advice, let me know. But as far as your cannibalization comments too, that's a very good point, especially when you look at the field house that's been sitting out there for a number of years, never got built down at the swim center, and that's something that actually would help recapture a lot of the money that's was spent on those projects down there, and we keep using that money to fund other projects, and we've torn it apart, essentially made it unbuildable at this point, and I think it's something that we need to keep on our radar. I wish you guys would keep that on your radar when you go forward with your new process, because it's something that is very important to the pools and the Parks and Rec department. I think the recapture, I don't remember how much it is we can get back, but it would definitely help the revenue side of that. So anyway, that's my opinion, and send to council without recommendation. Thank you.
I've got a motion by Lewis to send to council without recommendation. I believe I had a second by Alderman Laurenti. And at this time, based on the motion to send to council without recommendation, I'd like to direct a question to the city attorney. Wade, I believe the reason that Council President Estes brought this before is we wanted to make sure that the public was aware of the separation of the two things that were being considered. Do we need that clarification, or do you think the conversation of today's item can go on the agenda and clearly define that the two things we're looking at is to open up so that the council can set the length of the project plan, as well as the mayor to form a citizens committee?
I think you could probably do it either way, as long as it's probably preferable that you have the two items, so it's clearly you're looking at the appointment of the committee and you're also looking at the ordinance change. The reason I had got into the queue was just to address Alderman Nordstrom's earlier question about the appointment of the committee versus, a 5-year, 1 year. The last action the council took was to suspend doing anything with the Vision Fund. Basically, there's that part in the ordinance about the Civic Center and the vote that we had and the uncertainty of what the funding was going to be used for. So that's the reason for the authorizing the mayor to appoint the committee, is to more or less partially reverse that action of just suspending the entire Vision Fund process. I think, the recommendation was to split it into two so that we would address that issue, but then you would also give notice to the public that we're looking at this ordinance change. So I think it would be appropriate to do a motion to split the issue to two items, and then if you want to forward both without recommendation, I think that's appropriate.
Chair would like to recognize Alderwoman Drew.
My question is about something else. Mr. Estes, when we're looking at projects coming up, obviously the Civic Center is in the queue. Are there others that are already in process that were just put aside because of the motion by the council?
I can't speak to what, that's why I open it up, because it's a public notification and you open it up.
But we haven't made any promises to groups or anything at this time?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
But, and if I could just leeway President Scott, I want to deviate just 1 minute. I want to thank Alderman Lewis for his comments. This might be my last chance to make an official remark to him. And I liken the projects in year 5 of the Vision Fund as a turtle making a poor decision to take a nap over an anthill. That's kind of what happens to those. And Mr. Lewis, it's been my privilege to serve with you, and good luck. Thanks. So back to you. No, there's nothing promised. And I, we all, the Civic Center came fast, and then it stopped, and nobody knows where it's going to go. The 16 money, we're going to have $13 million in cash and reserves, and half the 17. So at the end of 17, there'll be $20,000 in a fund that will be used as equity towards a project at the Civic Center. And we can all sit and argue and think what we learned about the Civic Center vote, but I don't think anybody will be critical of us having some cash in the bank to provide equity in whatever project the community does approve.
Thank you. I currently have a motion on the floor unless anyone would like to supply a substitute motion to split this. I would ask any media that are doing this, if the current motion on the floor is to send this item as it's stated on today's agenda to council without recommendation, but if any media could help, or if Daryl can work on a media that the council is actually looking at 2 items specifically in this piece so that the public is well notified that the discussion Tuesday night will concern 2 things. So, Chair would like to recognize Alderman Lewis.
As my parting shot. So this is one of those smoke-filled back room deals I was been told about?
This is not.
Oh, okay. All right.
I repeat, this is not
Okay, I just want to make sure.
a smoke-filled backroom deal.
As VP, you were in that room.
I do have a motion on the floor to send item 15 to council without recommendation. Seeing no further lights, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Got a motion by everybody to adjourn. Second? Second by Drew. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? We're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.